Sweet Mother of Christ, I've been watching movies a long time, and I'm here to tell you that this might be one of the worst movies I've ever reviewed. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it! Do it!
When I say that this might be one of the worst movies I've ever reviewed, I say that because typically I don't review made-for-TV movies. And the best way that I can describe The Mean One is a Hallmark or Sci-Fi Channel quality movie that somehow made its way into theaters. But if I said that, it might actually be an insult to Hallmark and Sci-Fi Channel movies. Now, I realize that this was a passion project for someone, and they are working on a very limited budget. So questionable writing, poor acting, and cheap effects are all to be expected in a movie like this.
That makes sense.
But if the history of film has taught us anything, it's that talented filmmakers always find a way to do more with less. At the very least, I was hoping for some kind of atmosphere with this movie. Or maybe something memorable from a tonal or visual perspective that would actually stick with me. Because in reality, those things cost nothing when it comes to filmmaking.
Not a damn thing!
And I'm here to tell you that there was none of that to speak of in this movie. I've recently talked about what movies like Terrifier were able to do with such a low budget. Because the filmmaker himself had a vision going into it and found a way to execute it. He made something that stood out to people with over-the-top special effects and a memorable lead character. The Mean One, on the other hand, uses CGI blood, which in my opinion there is absolutely no place for in horror. But I guess I can't be too hard on it for that, considering a major production like the Chucky TV series also used CGI blood. Seriously, fuck that show.
Fuck you!
And they also had the actor who played Art the fucking Clown at their disposal. Of course, I'm talking about David Howard Thornton, who played the Mean One or the Grinch in this movie. And there was absolutely nothing memorable about his performance whatsoever. First of all, you really can't see much of him because his face is completely covered with makeup and prosthetics. So you don't really get any kind of emotion out of the character, and on top of that, they don't really give him anything fun to do.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Most of the murder and mayhem actually takes place off camera, completely underutilizing the talents of David Howard Thornton. Seriously, if you put anyone else in the Grinch suit, no one would know the difference. The story for The Mean One, for those that don't know, is that it's an action comedy horror retelling of the classic How the Grinch Stole Christmas story. It follows Cindy You-Know-Who is all grown up now and returns to her hometown of Newville to try and help get over the trauma she experienced there as a kid, mainly watching the Mean One murder her mother all those years ago on Christmas Eve. This movie is officially described as a parody by its creators, and that's pretty obvious given the slight changes to the story. Putting it in a modern setting and changing the name of the town, and not calling the monster the Grinch, was all very obviously done to avoid any kind of copyright issues.
Oh, okay, I see what you did there.
But here's the thing, typically parodies are supposed to be funny. Even the director of this movie said it should be treated as if it was a comedy more than anything else. That's all well and fine, but in the history of parody movies, this is easily bottom tier all time. We're talking We Are the Spartan levels of bad. We are a long way removed from the days of Spaceballs or the original Scary Movie.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
He might have wanted it to be a parody, but when you're actually watching the movie, it's very clear that it doesn't really know what it wants to be. Perhaps if they actually had the rights to the original story. And we got a horror retelling in the world that Dr. Seuss actually created. At the very least, we could have got some aesthetically pleasing backdrops. Setting this movie in modern times with cars and shit didn't do it any favors. You're basically selling us on the prospect of this movie on the concept alone. But your legal need to make it a parody really didn't do you any favors.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
It doesn't allow them to go all in on the idea, and I think the movie suffers because of it. To me, you needed a little bit more than just the image of the Grinch to make this thing work. They would have been better off just creating a new creature and having this be a completely original idea. You need a talented filmmaker to try to balance all the different tones in this movie. One minute we're getting a cheesy love story ripped right out of a Hallmark movie. The next we are getting an action-style training montage that makes the lead character suddenly look like she's Ronda fucking Rousey. And we have cringe comedic moments like introducing a character who is actually named Dr. Zeus, not Seuss.
As in father of Apollo, Mount Olympus, don't fuck with me or I'll shove a lightning bolt up your ass, Zeus!
And then of course we have a half-assed attempt at a slasher movie that felt like it wanted to be scary but comes off as having minimal effort if anything. And out of all of these different elements in this movie, absolutely none of them worked. The mean one, or the Grinch, should have been treated like Bigfoot, an urban legend that people talk about throughout the entire course of the movie. They actually do try to introduce that idea later in the film, pretty much when it's too late. Even the initial reveal of the mean one is so underwhelming and rushed that he didn't feel like a big deal at all, or a real viable threat. You should have built this character's legend up a little bit, and shown us as little as possible of him, at least initially. So then when we eventually do see him, it actually means something.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
The approach that they took with this movie is one of the biggest question marks of all. And it doesn't give me much hope for the other children's story turned horror movies that are coming out very soon, like Winnie the Pooh or Bambi. I honestly don't see the point, and it already feels very gimmicky to me, and we're only one movie into this new trend. Bottom line, The Mean One was a waste of time from start to finish.
Don't waste my motherfucking time!
The only good thing about it was that it was only an hour and 33 minutes. But as bad as it was, even that short runtime felt like a fucking eternity. With garbage dialogue and even worse acting, lazy effects, and a movie overall that feels more like a poorly constructed fan film, it's not fun, it's not entertaining, it's not scary. In fact, it's barely a movie. I'm actually disgusted with myself that I went out of my way to watch this piece of shit. I don't tell people to avoid movies at all costs very often, but I strongly believe that this movie might actually make you die inside if some of you watch it. It is the very definition of I watch shit so you don't have to. That's why I'm going to give The Mean One the Disgusted Ian Malcolm.
That is one big pile of shit.
Y'all be cool. Right on.